Old School Runescape is a game with beautiful beaches, tall mountains, caves ready to be explored, and bosses to be beaten. But not for me. After leaving Tutorial Island, I'm shunned away from Lumbridge. This is my home, Catherby. This is where I can explore. My boss, this level 2 man. This is Chart3r Chunk. I assume if you're watching this, then you understand the rules of a chunk-locked Ironman, but just in case you don't, this is our starting chunk, Catherby. You see this little gray area over here? We're not allowed to go over there. We have a chunk map, and on this chunk map, it gives us different tasks that we have to complete. We are not allowed to leave this chunk until we complete these tasks. Well, what do we have to do in this chunk before we can leave? First, we have to cook a rabbit. Luckily, we already have level 1 cooking, so that should be pretty easy. We just need the 50 GP to get it. Next, we have to wear a Tier helm. Again, level 5 defense is pretty easy, but we need over 1000 GP to do that. Not quite as easy as you might think, since there aren't very many monsters in our starting chunk. Next, we have to thieve a citizen. Easy, we already have level 1 thieving as well. Next, we have to find our best in slots items. We need an iron dagger and a bronze med helm, both from Min, and then we have to buy that Tier helm that I mentioned earlier. Lastly, we have to do a diary task with buying a candle from the candle maker here in Catherby. These chunk tasks might not sound too crazy, but trust me, we're going to be here a little longer than you might expect, and our next chunk might be even trickier. Oh, and another thing. You see all that cool stuff from Tutorial Island on the ground? That's where it belongs. It did not come from our chunk, so we don't need it. Our last piece of housekeeping before we get started is why are we called Chart3r Chunk? Many chunk accounts specifically avoid the charter ships, and I thought it would be a fun twist to force us to roll based off of the charter ships. So that's another unofficial chunk task. We need enough money to get on the charter ships. They cost about 1,000 per ride, and we're going to be needing to go back and forth, especially since Catherby is likely to be our only bank for a while. It is time to kill our first man on the account. We are officially a murderer. Remember, they drop both bronze med helms and iron daggers, both of which are a chunk task. They also drop some runes, some herbs, and some coins. Once we get the iron dagger, we should be able to kill a lot more of these a lot faster. In our starting chunk, there is also a general store. There's nothing too exciting here other than a bronze pickaxe, which means once we unlock a chunk that requires mining, we'll be able to have a pickaxe right away. We've killed a few men and picked a few pockets, and we're taking a quick look at the charter ship store. This is where we're going to be able to get our Tier helm and our raw rabbit, as well as lots of other supplies throughout our Chart3r Chunk journey. We hit level 2 attack, and it's the perfect time to continue exploring. I don't really like doing the same thing over and over again. Maybe a chunk account wasn't the right pick for me. Up here in this house, there's some insect repellent. I don't know if it's going to be worth a whole lot of money, but it's worth picking up. There's also Purdue. He doesn't sell much to us right now, but he does sell a chronicle, which is completely useless for us. I genuinely did not search the wiki about this chunk or any of our other possible chunks before we started. I wanted to be a little bit surprised, and here I am surprised that we just found a jug of wine. This is going to be huge while we're pickpocketing, and if we ever start range or mage. I'm going to do some world hopping and get a couple inventory of wines before we get too far into this. We have an inventory of 10 wines, and we just got thieving level 2. I think thieving is going to be our best moneymaker, especially here while men are the only real enemy we have to kill. Their coin drops are just not enough, and we get a lot more money picking their pockets than we do killing them. Along with our wine, I remember seeing UIMs use pineapples at Wintertod because you can note them. I believe if we cut them into rings, we can get 8 HP per pineapple. That might be our best non-wine healing item we have for a long time. Remember how I said I don't like doing the same thing too many times in a row? Let's go ahead and knock out a chunk task. I'm pretty sure we have enough money to go ahead and buy a candle. Let's update that chunk map. I've already checked off that we've thieved since we've thieved quite a few citizens, and now we can check off that we've done that diary task. We are making progress on our chunk. Also, look at that. We have level 5 thieving, and once I open up these pouches, we'll have over 100 GP. We're probably the richest chunk luck account there is. What's the point of having money if it isn't to spend it? Let's head to the charter ship store and buy a raw rabbit. Once we cook this, we can check off another chunk task. If you look right here, you see I almost ruined our account. I'm so used to cooking in this range when I used to fish here in Catherby, I genuinely have no idea how we're supposed to cook this rabbit. I don't think we have a tinderbox or a way to cut wood. I have no clue what we're going to do. I could show you me running around in circles for 5 minutes trying to figure it out, or I can just skip to the end. We have a cooking pot. This is not something I've ever interacted with in the game, but if you use an item on a cooking pot, you can actually cook it, just like a range. It just doesn't have a cook option. Literally never seen this before. But we now have level 2 cooking, and we can check that off our chunk map. I think I got pretty decent experience points for cooking that rabbit, and it's only 50 GP. I'm curious if that would actually be a decent cooking method on a low-level Ironman. For the first time here, I've been patient and allowed myself to get 28 different bags of gold. I have to imagine this is going to be like 10,000 GP. Let's click it and see what we get. Less than 100. I forgot every bag is only 3 GP. We're going to be here for a while trying to get that Tiras helm. Nobody thought we could do it, but look at that. Level 10 thieving and almost 300 GP. Let's go. With an inventory full of pineapple, I decided to take a break from thieving and kill some more men. We still need to get those best in slot items. And would you look at that, level 2 strength. Not only are we the richest chunk account, probably, we're also the strongest. Just don't fact check me on that. What's that in our inventory? A bronze med helm. After 14 kills, we're level 4 strength, and we have one of our best in slot items already unlocked. Let's check that bad boy off the list. And that's level 5 strength if you care. And if you're still here, I hope you do. Make sure you leave a like on the video and subscribe so that way you can be here when episode 2 drops in about a week. Level 10 strength, if we weren't the strongest before, we have to be by now. We also just hit level 5 attack and we are 53 men into the account. 53 men? That sounds like my weekend. We're obviously still early and our stats aren't anything too special, but we're at 5 attack, 10 strength, 12 hit points, and 3 prayer, along with that 2 cooking and 10 thieving we got earlier. We switched to defense training and we got 5 defense, which is actually one of our chunk tasks if you remember, because we need to get that Tiras helm. Unfortunately, we still don't have enough money to actually buy it. Oh my goodness, oh my goodness, oh my goodness! We just got the iron dagger. Now I know this is a garbage weapon, and for a lot of chunks it is a starting thing that you have to do, and it's nothing that exciting or nothing that you haven't seen before, but for me, this is a big deal. This is our best in slot item that we can use in melee for right now, and we are so close to rolling our first chunk. We just need some money. All in all, it took 77 men to get our iron dagger and our bronze med helm. Even though we had to punch them all, I don't think it took much more than 1 hour. I do fear our next chunk will be a lot harder, but we're not finished with this one yet. But before we talk about all that, let's experience our new best in slot. Equipping the iron dagger gives us a +4 melee strength bonus. That doesn't actually sound like that much, and I don't know how big of a difference it makes, but I'm still pretty excited. Looking at our chunk map, all we need now is the Tiras helm. So that means we gotta go ahead and start picking some pockets. I went ahead and set up my main Ironman as a splasher because I just cannot follow this man around all day long picking his pockets. He's got to stay still. What are we doing? We're picking pockets. What are we doing? We're picking pockets. What are we doing? We're picking pockets every day. What are we doing? We're picking pockets. What are we doing? We're picking pockets. What are we doing? We're picking pockets every day. Yeah. Oh look, 20 thieving, and more importantly, over 1,000 GP. Let's go ahead and get that Tiras helm and head to our chunk picker. It took me a whole song montage to get this money, so it really hurts to buy it. But here we go. 1 Tiras helm in the inventory. That is our last chunk task. It is annoying how expensive it was, but at least it's actually going to be useful. It's plus like 5 or 6 of every defense compared to the bronze med helm. Did you think we were going to the chunk picker? We're not. Remember, we have one more invisible chunk task. We have to find a way to get out of this chunk. That means that we need at least 1,000 GP in order to get on the charter ship. Looks like we're back to pickpocketing. I know for you we got the Tiras helm less than 30 seconds ago, but for me it's been a little bit longer. Here we go. We have 1,000 GP and we are level 23 pickpocketing. Let's check back at our list from earlier. Rabbit, check. Tiras helm, check. Thieving, double check. Iron dagger, bronze med helm, check. Candle, easy, check. We have done this chunk. Let's finally spin a new one. So I'll be honest, when I first thought of this idea, I wasn't sure how many charter ships we'd be able to go to. I was really hoping we would be able to go to Port Phasmas, but we can't get there because of different quests. We currently have 5 options available. We have the Corsair Cove, we have Port Sarum, we have Musa Point, we have Brimhaven, and we have the Fishing Trawler Chunk. Obviously, if we do the Fishing Trawler Chunk, that's going to be a whole bunch of work. I don't really know much about the other chunks. I haven't looked into it yet. I really wanted to explore it with you guys. Without further ado, let's go ahead and spin. Now this chunk says it's the Port Sarum Church, but for our purposes it's really just Musa Point. Now you can see I'm not super familiar with the chunk map, but I didn't really want to cut any of this out just so that you guys knew that I was being honest with the chunk picking. It does want us to make available the surrounding chunks for future picks, but that's not really how it's going to work for right now. Eventually we'll run out of charter ships and we'll have to unlock more of the map, but for now we are sticking to just charter ships. Now the chunk picker does give us an opportunity to say we only have access to Musa Point and not the Port Sarum side. Once I do that though, unfortunately it says we actually don't have any chunk task. It's a little bit anticlimactic. I didn't realize that the charter ship was really the only thing in that chunk that we had access to, and we've obviously already bought all of the charter ship stuff that matters. So what does that mean for us? Well, first it means I probably should have done a little bit more research about the different charter ship chunks, but that's fine. It also means we get to roll a second chunk here back to back. Let's see what we get. The Asgardian Ice Dungeon. For us, that means the Port Sarum charter ship. This, I think, will have a lot of cool things, and I'm pretty excited to see what those tasks are. It also happens to be right next to the chunk we just unlocked, which means we have 2 chunks side by side. Now let's generate the task, and look at that list. I think we have a lot of different tasks that we're going to do, and this chunk is going to take us a lot longer than the last one. I'm really, really excited. By the way, the chunk map is in the description if you guys would like to look at it at any point. First we have our skill task, and they should largely be pretty okay. We need 20 attack in order to do a mithril weapon, 20 defense in order to wield some mithril armor. We need 55 magic in order to do high level alchemy. Now that one might be a little tricky, and I don't really know why they made the cut a high level alchemy, but we'll deal with that later. Lastly, we need 40 thieving in order to do guards. We're already about halfway there, so that shouldn't be that bad either. Next we have our best in slot items. These items are definitely not top tier and won't be the main reason why we stay here, but they will take a little bit of effort, probably more than one episode. We need to get a mithril mace, an iron plate body, iron plate legs, a black kite shield, and a mithril square shield. Now, most of these drops will come from ice giants, and that's the problem. They are level 53 combat. We, on the other hand, are, I think, about level 12 combat. We definitely have to do a lot of grinding before we are ready to do that. The only best in slot item that does not come from ice giants is the iron plate body, which will come from pirates. We're 13 minutes into the video and hours into the process of our chunk account, and I have not yet officially said what kind of chunk account this is. This is an extreme 1 chunk Ironman, and what that means is I do in fact have to do the collection log slots like a curved bone. That is the last thing we have to do in this chunk. The long bone should take about 300 kills, and the curved bone should take about 5,000 kills. Obviously, we're already planning on killing the ice giants for our best in slot task, but there will be a lot more than just that in order to get our curved bone. This is why we will be in this chunk for a very long time, but hopefully we will get lucky and be rolling a new chunk before we know it. I recorded my live reaction to exploring our new chunk for the first time, but it was just really rambly and everything. If you guys do want to see that unedited, let me know in the comments and I'll post an unlisted video in the description. Anyway, as we are here, you might see our main issue. We are trapped on this dock. Just like the last chunk we rolled, there is absolutely nowhere for us to go. I just made this long list about all of our chunk goals and we can't actually accomplish any of them. I've decided that that just doesn't sound like very much fun to me. The whole point of this was to be able to go to different parts of the map using the charter ships and really have a different chunk experience. So what I'm going to allow us to do is just do this little bit of gray area. We are going to walk through it and get to the rest of our chunk. We are not going to do anything outside of our chunk other than walk to the rest of our chunk. We are not going to kill these seagulls. We are not going to get any experience. We are just going to walk about 10 feet from one part of our chunk to another. By the way, you might have noticed this is not actually our Chart3r Chunk account that I am on to explore a new chunk. That is because, like I said previously, once we leave our chunk, we are pretty much stuck in this new chunk until we get enough money to get back to Catherby. We either need to have a lot of money saved up or a good way to make money here in Port Sarim before we come here on our actual Chart3r Chunk account. The first place I went once I came to Port Sarim was the jail. There are a lot of monsters behind bars, but we can't kill them really until we get magic. We've already killed quite a few men, and we're going to obviously kill a lot more, and we still do not have any air runes. The only monsters in our chunk that drop air runes are pirates and guards, and both of them are over level 20. So it's going to be a little while before we have enough runes to actually start our magic journey. Now this chunk also has giant rats and goblins. Now neither of these are in our chunk task, but goblins do drop a bronze spear, which is better than our iron dagger. Having giant rats and access to meat that we don't have to pay for will help us get our cooking level up if that is something we need to do. We might also replace pineapples with giant rat meat if it is viable. The only real problem here is that we don't have a way to cook them here, so we will have to take the charter ship back and forth to Catherby to cook the rat meat. If we come down here, there is an anvil, but I don't know if it's actually locked behind the Knight Sword quest. We don't really have any bars or anything yet, but we might be able to explore that later. There's also a fire here, but unfortunately I cannot cook the rat meat here. Most of our chunk tasks come down to the Asgardian Ice Dungeon. In here, there are lots of different types of monsters. First, we will go ahead and kill muggers. These are level 6, and their drop table is almost identical to min, but there's a lot more of them, so it's a little bit more AFK, and I should be able to get some levels that way. Once we are strong enough, also in here, there are pirates. Like I mentioned before, pirates are a monster we have to kill for the best in slot iron plate body. I thought at first the only pirate was in the jail, and that was going to be a big pain, but luckily there are lots of pirates in the dungeon as well. The dungeon also contains hobgoblins. We haven't mentioned them before, but they're around the same level as pirates, and although they're not a best in slot item, they drop the steel longsword and the steel spear, both of which will be really useful upgrades that'll help us eventually on our long grind against the ice giants. The last monsters we have access to in the dungeon are ice warriors and ice giants. We've talked a lot about ice giants already. The ice warriors are pretty much useless to us. They have some of the same drops as ice giants, but since we have to get the curve bone anyway, they should largely be avoided. The big problem with them is since they are aggressive, they are going to distract us from trying to kill the giants when we get to that. Okay, so let's get back to Chart3r Chunk. So we are currently at 100 total level and 20 strength. That's nowhere near ready for the ice giants, but it is a lot further than I thought. And now that we've killed one more man, we are now up to 10 attack. I would much rather worry about our combat skills right now, but honestly, we really need to get our thieving up first. Getting level 40 thieving will take about 4,000 total pickpockets. That's a lot, but that will give us enough money to go back and forth to Port Sarim about as much as we want right now. It'll also give us the ability to pickpocket guards in Port Sarim and get money if we get stuck there. I just don't think at this low level, fighting monsters is going to be the best moneymaker. You might have noticed that I found the best place to splash here where the man does not move at all. It's been over an hour, but here we are with level 30 thieving. We only get 8 experience per pickpocket. We currently have 16,000 experience. That means we have successfully pickpocketed this man 2,000 times. It is still the first day since I created the account, and we are 4 hours in. I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but remember, I haven't left Catherby the whole time. So if you're not aware, every 7 levels doubles the amount of experience. What that means is since the last clip, we almost doubled the amount of pickpockets we have done. We are now level 35. So obviously this grind is a little annoying and it's a little repetitive, but it's also one of the cool things about chunk accounts. There's no other reason to get to level 35 on min. It could be stealing cakes or stealing silk or doing so many other methods to 35. Chunk accounts are annoying, but in a rewarding sort of way. And here we go, guys. We are at level 40 thieving. We picked pockets of over 4,000 men, and we made almost $14,000 doing it. It really is pretty darn cool. And with that, it is finally time for us to visit our new chunk. Let's go to Port Sarim and let's pick the pocket of the nearest guard we see. Oh my goodness, we are here. We are officially a Chart3r Chunk account. We have gone on a charter ship. Again, that's what this account all comes down to. And look, we just unlocked Sea Shanty 2. That's what I'm talking about. Hey there, Mr. Guard, I would like to pick your pocket. There we go. Now we can pickpocket guards and get 30 GP per time instead of 3. It'll be a perfect way to make money for us to go on the charter ships back and forth to Catherby. Let's go ahead and check that off our chunk map. While I'm here, I want to see if I can kill a pirate. I know I'm nowhere near strong enough to kill an ice giant, but a pirate should be a lot easier. Remember, we need that iron plate body, which will make fighting ice giants a lot easier. So what I'm seeing is pirates hit a max of 3 or 4. Unfortunately, we only have a health of 17, and we have a defense level of 6. We are just unfortunately not ready for these. Even with wines being able to heal 11s, since they lower our attack, they're really just not useful in combat. I think we're going to need to run away and fight the muggers, maybe even the men and the goblins. We will get back to pirates later. Here we are killing goblins, and we actually got a decent drop, a bronze spear. Notice how it increases our melee strength 2 more than the dagger while still being the same speed. We don't have a shield anyway, so it doesn't really matter that we can't hold one. And look at that, we just got level 10 defense. Unfortunately, rats and goblins are just a little bit more our speed right now. Forget what I just said. We're still here at our first trip ever at Port Sarim, and we're going to try to take on our first pirate. We have level 16 attack and defense with 22 strength. We have a bunch of wines, it'll be no problem. Can we get a 1kc iron plate body? Real time, this kill took over 2 minutes to get 23 health down. This might be the longest pirate kill of all time, but is it worth it? No, we just got some more coins, but we proved that we can kill pirates, just maybe not super efficiently yet. Our backpack was full, so we went back to Catherby to kill some men, and look at that, level 25 strength. The cool thing about the spear, since it levels up attack, strength, and defense all at the same time, we can get a whole bunch of levels all at once. 20 attack and 20 defense. That's what I'm talking about. We are making progress here. We are back at the pirates, this time with pineapples instead of wine, and look at that, level 25 defense and attack. We aren't able to kill that many per trip, but we are able to go ahead and restock on pineapples here in Port Sarim so we don't have to go back to Catherby every time. We're also trying to use our prayers to make us even stronger. Sorry for it being jarring, but I switched over to mobile, and look at that, we got the iron plate body. We've killed almost 50 pirates on mobile, and obviously if you want the computer as well, but we have the iron plate body, our first best in slot item of the chunk. Let's go. Okay guys, we are back on the PC, and we are about 24 hours into this adventure. We are level 34 attack, 38 strength, 34 defense, and 36 hit points. We've gotten one best in slot item of our new chunk, and we will get even more in the next episode. While I was grinding on mobile, we also got a steel longsword from killing hobgoblins, which is not a best in slot, but since it allows us to use a shield, it might be better than the steel spear we also found, even though the spear is faster, especially as we try to take on the ice giants next episode. I really appreciate all you guys watching and making it this far. If you liked the video, make sure to like it and subscribe, and comment down below what you want to see in the next video, and if you have any tips, let me know. In episode 2, we will go ahead and take on some ice giants. I can't promise you a curve bone, but we'll do as much as we can. Also, I might be streaming some of the ice giant kills, so if that's something you're interested in, definitely subscribe. Thank you so much for watching.